How to become mentally strong. The truth. No one tells you. You don't really know how strong you are until you've been broken in ways no one sees. Until you've sat in a room alone, silent, shattered, pretending to function while quietly falling apart. Mental strength isn't built when you're applauded. It's forged in the moments you're ignored. When no one checks in on you, when the texts stop, when the world keeps spinning and you're left behind with nothing but your thoughts, your regrets, and your raw determination to survive. That's where strength is born, not the kind that gets likes or goes viral, not the kind you post about, the kind you earn in silence, through pain, through persistence, through nights you can't even remember how you survived. You want to become mentally strong. You're not going to find it in comfort. You'll find it in the storm. Let's begin. You learn who you are not when things are easy, but when everything you leaned on disappears. Not when you're celebrated, but when you're forgotten. That's when it begins. Because mental strength isn't loud. It's not the person screaming in the gym. It's not a motivational quote slapped over a sunrise. It's quieter than that. It's what happens when no one sees you, and you keep showing up anyway. When you get out of bed on the day that you don't want to. When your heart is breaking, but your hands still work. When you're tired of fighting, but you choose to fight anyway. For your dignity, for your future, for the version of you no one else believes in yet. There's a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Not because it's impossible, but because you haven't suffered enough to meet them. Not the surface level suffering, not the heartbreak you cry about for a week. I'm talking about the kind of pain that shatters your idea of who you were. That's the gateway. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards persistence. The kind of persistence that makes no sense to anyone but you. You don't become mentally strong by reading the right books or following the right people. You become mentally strong by choosing not to die in the place that broke you. You become strong by staying standing when life has every reason to put you on your knees. Somewhere along the line, people lied to you. They said strength means never breaking. But real strength? It's knowing how to break and rebuild again and again until breaking becomes just another word for becoming. No one sees the work you do at 2 a.m. No one claps when you silence your inner critic for the 100th time that day. No one notices the nights you go to war with yourself and win. But that's the work that builds a mind that cannot be broken. They won't understand your silence. They'll think you've changed, and you have. Because silence isn't emptiness. It's discipline. It's the absence of wasted energy. You learn to stop explaining yourself. You learn to stop defending your growth to people who preferred you weak. And when the storm hits, because it will, you no longer look for shelter. You are the shelter. Most people think mental strength means feeling nothing. That's not true. You still feel. But the emotions don't control you anymore. You can be scared and still take the step. You can be grieving and still get up. You can be furious and still remain calm. That's strength, not the absence of emotion, the mastery of it. And one day, you'll notice something different, not in how the world treats you, but in how you treat yourself. You no longer chase things that drain you. You no longer beg for closure or clarity. You no longer perform pain just to feel seen. You've met the fire inside you. And now, you protect it, not with walls, but with standards. Boundaries are not weapons. They are proof that you finally understand your worth. And yes, people will leave. Let them, because when you stop breaking for others, only the ones who truly matter will remain. Not because they need you, but because they respect you. You become mentally strong when you stop being addicted to being understood. When you realize that some chapters require silence, some lessons require loneliness, and some versions of you will never be born until you bury the ones that kept you small. And that's terrifying, but it's also liberating, because now you're not reacting, you're choosing. You're no longer ruled by what happened to you. You're ruled by what you're becoming. You understand that strength doesn't show up all at once. It shows up quietly, decision by decision. It's built when you choose discipline over comfort, when you walk away instead of lashing out, when you sit with discomfort rather than chase escape. Think of a blade forged in fire. It doesn't become sharp without the heat, the pounding, the relentless shaping. You're the same. Every hard day, every disappointment, every betrayal, it's not breaking you, it's shaping you. And you don't have to explain it to anyone. Mental strength is lonely at first because you'll lose people who benefited from your weakness. The ones who loved the old you, the one who always said yes, who always explained, who always broke to keep peace. They'll say you've changed, and they're right. You stopped bending to be accepted. You stopped watering yourself down to fit their comfort. You started choosing yourself. And the world? It doesn't reward the loudest person in the room. It rewards the most grounded, the ones who can walk away from noise, the ones who can hold their vision steady while everything else falls apart. You'll notice your circle gets smaller, and that's okay, because you'll realize that peace is more valuable than approval. You'll crave solitude not because you hate people, but because silence is where you sharpen your edge. It's where your mind clears. It's where you remember who you are. You become mentally strong when you stop needing the world to make sense, when you stop waiting for it to be fair, when you accept that you don't control the storm, only how you walk through it. And some days you'll fall. That's part of it. You'll question yourself. You'll ache. But strength isn't about never falling. It's about never staying down. It's getting up with cracked ribs and blurry vision and saying, "Not today. I'm not done." Because there's more in you. And even when the world says enough, your soul whispers, more. Mental strength is built in the moments you feel most alone and still choose to keep going. So when you find yourself in that room, shattered and unseen, remember this: you're not broken. You're being built. Every scar you carry is evidence that you refuse to quit. Every bruise on your soul is a badge of resilience. Every step you take in pain is a declaration that you are not done. You're becoming something most people will never have the courage to be. Unshakable, unmoved, unbreakable. And when the day comes where everything clicks, where the noise quiets, where the people who left no longer hurt, where you finally breathe without the weight, you'll know this strength, you earned it, alone, in the dark, while no one clapped. And that's why it's real. That's why it lasts. That's why no one can take it from you. You are becoming mentally strong, not because the world gave it to you, but because you chose to fight for it every single day. There's another kind of pain that comes after the breaking, not the pain of what happened, but the ache of staying awake when it would be easier to shut down. Mental strength is often mistaken for constant movement, for grinding endlessly, for never resting, for showing no emotion. But the strongest minds don't run. They pause. They assess. They choose their battles with precision. The storm doesn't stop. You just learn how to walk through it differently. You stop running from discomfort. You walk straight into it. You sit with it. You look it in the face and say, "Show me what I need to learn." Because you know, somewhere deep, that every trigger is a teacher. Every wound is a doorway. Every setback is shaping something you can't yet see. And the people around you? They won't always understand your growth. You'll see it in their eyes when you no longer entertain what you used to, when you don't respond the way you did, when you start saying no with conviction instead of guilt. They'll try to pull you back into the role you played before, the agreeable one, the quiet one, the one who never challenged the room. But mental strength doesn't shrink to keep others comfortable. It expands, even if it makes others uneasy. You stop tiptoeing around what matters. You speak truth without apology. You set boundaries without fear. You lead your life like it means something, because it does. You begin to carry yourself like someone who has walked through fire, because you have. And your scars don't make you bitter. They make you sharp, precise, focused, because you've bled for your peace. You've sacrificed old selves for this clarity. You've lost people you once thought you couldn't live without, and you're still here, still breathing, still building, still choosing yourself every single day. Mental strength is quiet, but it's relentless. It shows up in how you choose to respond when everything feels chaotic. It shows up in how you stay grounded when the world tells you to panic. It shows up in your ability to say, "I don't need to prove anything to anyone." You stop trying to be understood. You start being true. And in that truth, you find something rare. Alignment, not perfection, not ease, but alignment with who you're becoming. You stop looking backwards. You stop revisiting the things that drained you. You stop reopening the wounds that were never going to heal with more attention. You learn that healing doesn't always come from closure. Sometimes healing comes from letting the door stay shut. You walk forward not because it doesn't hurt, but because you finally believe you're worth the distance. This isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming honest. Honest about your limits. Honest about your needs. Honest about your past, not to stay in it, but to understand it so it doesn't repeat. Because that's what real strength does. It learns, it adapts, it evolves. And so do you. You evolve into someone who trusts yourself, even when you're scared, who believes in your vision, even when you're tired, who keeps moving, not because it's easy, but because stillness now feels like betrayal. There will always be days where doubt whispers louder than hope, where your progress feels invisible, where nothing seems to work. But you keep going, not out of arrogance, but because you remember who you were when you started, and you refuse to go back. That refusal, that line in the sand that says, "No matter what, I will not go backward." That is strength. And that is the next version of you, waiting on the other side of this moment. You reach a point where it's no longer about survival. It's about creation. Because mental strength isn't just about enduring pain. It's about turning that pain into power. About transforming the weight you once carried into something that carries you. It's when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, what can I build from this? Pain gives you perspective. Loss sharpens your focus. Discomfort forces you to confront parts of yourself that comfort would have kept hidden. You stop running. You stop hiding. You stand in the truth of everything you've experienced, not as a victim of it, but as the architect of what comes next. You start building a life that's honest, a life that reflects who you are, not who you needed to be for others. You surround yourself with people who challenge you, not people who drain you. And you recognize the difference between support and dependency. You begin to understand that mental strength isn't how hard you push. It's how clearly you can see, how deeply you can feel, how bravely you can let go. Let go of resentment. Let go of needing to be right. Let go of needing to be rescued. Let go of the version of you that thought strength was about control. Strength is surrender. Surrender to the reality that some people will never change, that some endings are necessary, that some pain will live with you, and still you can thrive. You no longer measure your worth by how much you can take. You measure it by how willing you are to grow, to change, to rise. And now, when pain visits, you don't panic. You sit with it. You listen to it. You take what you need from it. Then you stand up and keep moving. Because you've learned the secret. Mental strength isn't about never feeling weak. It's about never allowing weakness to become your identity. You carry your past with grace. You carry your scars with dignity. You carry your solitude with pride, because you've earned every step forward, every inch of peace, every breath of clarity. And now, you walk differently, not because you have something to prove, but because you've already proven it to yourself. You've walked through fire. You've stood alone in rooms you used to beg to be seen in. You've turned silence into sanctuary. And now, you are free. Free to choose your battles. Free to walk away. Free to start over. Free to speak less and mean more. This is what it means to be mentally strong, to rise without noise, to lead without ego, to feel deeply, but move decisively. And when people ask how you did it, you'll smile quietly. Because the truth is, most of the work was done where no one could see. In the dark, in the doubt, in the silence. That's where you found yourself. That's where you stopped waiting to be saved. That's where you became unshakable. So now, when life shakes again, and it will, you won't fall apart. You'll breathe, you'll listen, you'll trust yourself, and you'll take the next step. Because you don't need perfect circumstances to move forward. You just need the will to keep going, and you have that now. You are no longer surviving. You are becoming. You are mentally strong. And the best part is, no one gave this to you. You built it, word by word, scar by scar, day by day. This is who you are now, and no one can take that from you. This was Bravora. You didn't watch this to be entertained. You came here for truth, for a voice that doesn't just speak to you, it speaks for you. If this message found you in the dark, carry it with you in the light. Subscribe to Bravora for more, not just for motivation, but for clarity, for power, for quiet reminders that you are already becoming everything you were meant to be. Stay sharp. Stay grounded, and never forget, the strength is already in you. We'll see you in the next one.